That's why a little bit like what irks me is that the medical system thinks they know it all. I don't want to bash the medical system because it's really
Let's
good.
bash the medical system for a little bit.
It has its purposes and, there's a time and place
So
for
I
everything.
believe the medical system is great for acute situations.
Yes, exactly.
If I hurt myself, I had heart surgery. Okay, they go in, they fix the broken thing. I think they're terrible for chronic. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of The Epicist. I'm Doug, the host, and today's going to be an amazing one with Nickey Feltz, a holistic nutritionist. Subscribe so that you don't miss any of our episodes coming up. We have some amazing things coming down the pipe, and this one's going to be amazing. And I met Nickey back when she was working at a health food store, and we chatted about different health things, and I was really fascinated. I'm definitely not a nutritionist. I don't even know if I'm holistic, but I'm something, but I'm interested, right? And this whole channel is about health. So why don't you introduce yourself, tell us some of your credentials and what you do. And
Okay, sure. First, thank you very much for having me. This is a pleasure to be on the podcast. I've watched a few episodes. I think it's great. So
thank you.
I'm very grateful to be here. So I'm a holistic nutritionist, which basically encompasses like the whole life of a person, which is where I kind of the name of my business comes from. So my business is One Whole Life, and I do nutrition and lifestyle consulting. So what that basically means...
Sorry, let me just interrupt for a second. I'll interrupt you once.
Go ahead.
One Whole Life is the name of your business, and can people access that business somehow?
Yes, yeah. I have a website, onewholelife.ca, and I'm on all the socials as well under One Whole Life.
Okay, great.
Yep. What I do basically is I help people achieve their health goals through nutrition, supplementation, and lifestyle changes. Okay. And it's all individual, based on the individual person and their specific needs. So every single client is unique. Yep.
Yeah, which is true. I mean, I'm not as a client, just people are so unique.
Yes.
I'm of the mind that, people say, well, what do you do to stay in shape? I say, well, what I do may not work for you. It works for me, and I figured it out over years, and I sort of fine-tuned it, and still I'm fine-tuning, but it's not for you. Like it might be, but I think you got to figure out your own groove. Right?
Absolutely, yeah. First, that takes figuring out who you are and what works for you, and getting in tune with your body, and then your body will actually start talking to you and tell you what it needs.
Yeah, sometimes my body screams at me, and I ignore it.
Your body will scream louder if you ignore it, so
right.
It will start giving you signs you can't ignore.
Okay, so you work with clients face-to-face, online?
Both.
Both, okay.
Yeah. I have a number of services that are, I want to be as service-oriented as possible. So I'll go to the grocery store with clients and help them make better food choices.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And what do you charge by the hour? Or?
Yes, depending on the service. And it's not really by the hour, it's by service.
By service.
Yeah.
So grocery shopping is a service?
Correct.
And one-on-one consulting is a service.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. And so I don't know a lot about holistic nutritionists, what you can and can't do. On previous episodes, we had a nurse practitioner. Now, she could do a lot what a doctor could do, but her focus is different. She could also prescribe medication. And I know that you're not number one medication person. And by the way, I'm with you on that because I was reading what you sent me about what the things you're passionate about, and the medication. I'm like 100% behind you. So, not that matters. It'd be okay if we disagree too.
Yeah.
but I am in this particular case. So a client comes along, and what happens? I'm a new client. I find you on the web. I'm like interested in improving my life. I don't know what that even looks like.
Okay. So that's where we would start. And so what does that mean to you? And we would basically, the one-on-one is an individual consultation. It's, an hour and a half to 2 hours long. So I really want to get to know who you are as a person. What are your health goals? Where do you want to, where do you want to be? What are the things that you're currently dealing with? If you just come to me and say, I just want to improve myself. Well, that's going to take some digging. We're going to have to ask some questions. We're going to see how you feel every morning.
So you'll go through maybe an extensive questioning
yes.
time where you're just getting to know the person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you try and narrow down what that means? Like, I just want to better life or whatever?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, it will depend obviously on the individual, but if I think of some examples of people coming to see me, I just want to be healthier.
Yeah.
Well, what does that mean? And then when you start to ask them questions, you realize they have a history of diabetes, that it's, maybe their parents have dementia. There's a lot of stress and anxiety about what their future holds. So that's the type of thing that we might want to focus on for that client is how do I eat to support my brain health now and into the future?
Okay. Because, I mean, feeling better or being healthy, that's such a broad term, really. I mean, health, because you said you do the holistic thing. So health can be social.
Yes.
Health is spiritual. Health
Absolutely.
is physical. It's mental. Like there's a lot of components to health.
Yes.
I mean, my channel is about that. It's about health, but so many different components to it, and so we might have a psychologist on, we may have a holistic nutritionist. We had a former Olympian, like there's a lot of things about health.
Yep.
So how do you, okay, so you got this whole person coming in with all these components of health and they basically want a better life. But I mean, there's too many components to deal with almost.
There's a lot of components, which is kind of what I love about what I do is because it's not just one thing. It's like I have to investigate, I have to research, I have to like really figure things out. It's not right there in front of me. And the solution is always different for every person. So sometimes we will find that spiritual gap. And that might mean looking into your community to see if there's a church group that you can join, or is there a social network that's dealing with similar traumas as you, or maybe you go for a Tai Chi class once in a while. It really depends on what your interests are and what's going to motivate you and what's going to bring happiness and joy to your life.
Yes.
And that's where my recommendations would come in, is based on you as an individual and what's going to fill that joy in your soul.
So you mentioned, the social part of it, and the spiritual part of it. When someone comes in and let's say every component of their life is dysregulated, and do you try and sort of first focus on one component, maybe the most important component, or do you try and work with all the components that are of health?
Yeah, I try to focus on the priorities. And what's going to bring the
Sorry, what is
biggest,
that?
the priorities.
Oh, priorities. I thought
Yes.
you said primordies. I'm like, I don't know
No,
what
the
that
priorities.
word is. There's a lot of words I don't know. So
Hopefully you know that one, though.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the priority, and it's individual again, right? So it's really going to depend on that person. Where's their biggest gap? And what's going to get them feeling better, faster? And I would try and grab onto that first, because we don't want to lose motivation either.
Do you help set the priority?
Yes.
Because their priority might be different than what you see as a priority.
Yes, absolutely. But then if they knew what the priority were, they might not need my help.
Well, they might still need your help, but I do men's groups, and somebody may think they have a priority, and I might go, well, maybe that's not your
Exactly.
priority right now. Like,
Exactly.
how about this idea?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I help them figure that out, right? And it's really based, again, always on the health goal. What do you want to accomplish right now? Like, you might want to learn to play guitar. It might be in your goal setting, it's going to fill that joy in you, but you have zero energy to get up in the morning. So maybe we save playing the guitar for like a phase 3 integration,
Right.
and we just get your energy levels up as a phase 1.
Okay, so as a nutritionist, a lot of, aside from, maybe connecting someone with community or, the spiritual aspect, a lot of what I'm asking, by the way, when I say a lot of things that are really just questions, a lot of what you would do is around nutrition, right? And how nutrition affects so many aspects of your being.
Yes. Yeah. So a lot of it is definitely, the focus is nutrition.
Right.
I found that I just really understand supplements really well too. So for me, that's one of like my niche factors, is that I really get a lot of like natural remedies for things. So I try to incorporate that as much as possible with the nutrition. So like things like teas, for example, like this tea was chosen specifically for this morning because I know the medicinal benefits of it. And it's going to help me right now this morning.
It'll help you put up with me, right?
Exactly.
It's calming or something.
Exactly.
Perfect. I should be giving that to all the guests. But okay, so that's great. I'm a strong believer in nutrition as one of the foundational, pillars of health. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that, you might experience this with clients. I don't know that people are quite aware of how, like, what you put in your body affects so many aspects of the body, whether it be mental health or physical health or so many other things.
Yeah, it's huge. It kind of, now that I'm more aware, it just kind of floors me why we're not learning this in school. You know, like every school should have the basics of how your body works and how food is transformed into things and molecules and nutrients in your body. It should be part of the education system. Like,
Totally.
oh yeah.
But we do the opposite.
We do.
So with my son, he obviously he was a kid. He liked sugar, and I started teaching him about sugar and the effects of sugar on the body. And he said, well, and I said, well, I would call it a poison.
It is, absolutely.
But he said, well, it's not poison. I said, okay, well, it may be a poison that affects you over many, many years, but it's still a poison. And you said, if I gave you rat poison, just because it had the name rat poison on it, would you eat it? He said, no, of course not.
Yeah.
I said, well, what if it was a long lasting and it tasted good and it was rat poison and it wouldn't affect you for 10 years maybe?
Yeah.
Would you eat it? He goes, no, it's rat poison. I'm like, okay. And so our culture is, I don't know, if you go to an event or if you go here or like a meeting, they have the sugary donuts and they have the sugar and they have the sugar and they have the sugar. So our culture is sort of wrapped around a lot of unhealthy things.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's really heartbreaking actually to see all of those things. It's kind of like the smoking, right? Like you can have one cigarette and it's probably not going to bother you and your body will bounce back.
Yes.
But if you're a chronic smoker over time, your body's eventually going to be too tired to fight back and it's going to give in to everything.
Unless you have this super DNA, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I talk about the DNA because like we're all you were talked about people worrying about what's in their family history, right? Which comes from the DNA. And,
Yes.
I believe that DNA is it's set but you can deviate positive or negative from that DNA. And some people have this like really hardcore DNA that they can smoke 3 packs of cigarettes a day and do fine till the end. Maybe not do fine. Maybe it affects other parts of their health, but never get lung cancer, right? And they say, well, I smoke 3 packs. Yeah, okay, but your DNA allowed you to do that. And that is rare. But for most people, it's going to have a negative effect. It's been proven, right?
Have you ever heard of epigenetics?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's like epigenetics, right?
Yes.
Like your biomarkers are turned on or off depending on your environment. So maybe that person's environment, they were a smoker, but they had a super chill life, and they're super relaxed and they learn to reset their nervous system all the time. So their body's in constant like heal mode instead of being high stress and they need to smoke and they're chronic smokers and stress causes inflammation. And with inflammation, you can't heal. So then it leads to disease and illness, right? So it all kind of, the environment makes a big difference, and then nutrition is part of that environmental factor.
So what you look at when you're looking at the holistic perspective is so big.
It's big.
It's big. And even just the body itself, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the body's like space. It's like every time we discover a new planet, there's like 5 billion other planets we haven't discovered. And we realize we really don't know how to get there. And even when they discover something about the body, they'll say, yeah, this does this. But we don't know why these other 4 things do what they do. We haven't figured that one out.
Yeah, I love your analogy of space because that's how I picture it. And when I was learning about the body in school, that's exactly what I thought of, is like learning about space in high school. It's just the same thing. Like the cells in your bodies are like planets in the universe, and like even if you get into the micro details about how your cells work, it's so reflective of how the universe works.
Yes, we've discovered how to get to Mars, maybe.
Yeah.
Big deal. Like when you look at the universe, it's like, okay, it's not even a pinhole on
Exactly. And there's so much more to learn. That's why that's why a little bit like what irks me is that the medical system thinks they know it all, right? And like, I think as soon as, that's maybe, I don't want to bash the medical system because it's really
Let's
good.
bash the medical system for a little bit. So
it has its purposes and there's a time and place
so
for
I
everything.
believe the medical system is great for acute situations.
Yes, exactly.
If I hurt myself, I had heart surgery. Okay, they go in, they fix the broken thing. I think they're terrible for lifestyle and chronic things. That's where they fall apart at the seams. But they're seen as sort of the beginning and end of all health, right?
Yes.
And it's tragic. And I've experienced a lot with the medical system. I don't know if I bash them. I have had really terrible experiences with doctors. And if I didn't take control of my life, if I didn't do my own research, I would be going down this awful rabbit hole of medications, and I could tell you stories about medications. I have in my cupboard upstairs, I have probably 10 medications that have been prescribed to me that just sit in the back
Yeah.
that I won't take.
Yeah.
You know, because I'll just say, okay, just give them to me and I'll put them here. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I totally agree. Like it feels like the progression of health has just like, it's skipped all the beginning parts of let's try and figure out where the problem is and let's just put a Band-Aid on this so that it goes away temporarily, right? Like you wouldn't put like a
But
regular
the problem
Band-Aid.
doesn't go away. The
No,
symptom
that's
goes
it. It's
away.
hidden. It's hidden temporarily.
But it's a symptom. They can deal with the symptom.
Yes.
They're not fixing the root problem.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So if I have a cold and I take medication for my sinuses, it's not getting rid of the cold. It's just making my nose not run for a day or two, you know?
For sure. And your example of like the heart surgery, I actually just talked to someone not long ago about this. And, there's now 7 medications that they've come out of the hospital with. And like just a description of some of these medications, I'm like, I know, like there's herbal remedies that will do the exact same thing, but without the side effects.
Side effects. And that's the other thing. So doctors will prescribe medication. And my perspective is they're very myopic. They see a problem, they prescribe a medication. I mean, again, the acute stuff is good. Like you have a broken arm, I'm going to fix it. Good. That's what a doctor does really well.
Yes.
But you have high cholesterol. So the first thing they throw at you is statins.
Yep.
I still, my surgery was 7 years ago. I still haven't taken a statin. I tried it once and it just messed with my head.
Yes.
And I won't take a statin now. I'm done. But that's, they're handing those things out like candy.
Yeah.
And, they don't seem to care about the side effects. They seem to care about, my job is to get your cholesterol down.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, you have a side effect. Well, maybe I can find a medication that will deal with your side effect.
Exactly.
That will have a
Band-Aid
side
on
effect.
Band-Aid on
Yeah.
Band-Aid on Band-Aid. Yeah.
And there used to be a time, though, Nickey, when the holistic nutritionist actually was a significant part of the medical system. In fact, they were looked to first, and then the medical system second. And I don't know the study. I can't remember. I think it was in the 60s that just turned everything around. It was a flawed study, obviously, but...
Yeah, I wish I knew more about that because you mentioned that before, and I found that super interesting because that's the way I feel like it should be. This is kind of a new world. Like my awareness just was opened up probably about 4 years ago. So there's a whole new world I'm discovering, and I don't understand how it got from there where it should be to here where we are now.
I'm gonna research that study and I'm gonna send it to you. We can talk more about it.
That would be great.
Because there's something that happens between, let's say, when you become a young adult to a place where you start feeling sick. Like there's a lot that happens before that, right? This is the stuff that you deal with, the holistic person, the whole person. And it's preventative almost.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to use prevent. It's against kind of my code of ethics.
Okay.
But we could
You mean
lower
the word
the
prevent?
risk.
Okay.
Yeah, we can lower the risk of
Lower
things
risk.
happening, and we can allow you to, feel better, give yourself a better likelihood outcome in the future.
Yeah, I get that. Like, so I haven't eaten sugar in years.
Yeah.
It doesn't prevent anything. So you're right. But it lowers the risk of so many things.
Exactly.
Like everything, anything bad.
Exactly.
I think it lowers the risk of, including cancer. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there's different forms of like sugar. So I don't want to not all sugar is bad, but it's anything basically from its original state that goes through a gamut of processes to become what it is on the shelves. That's where you determine how bad it is for your body. Like how long does it take to get from here to there? And if it takes a long time and there's a lot of processing and chemicals involved, then the worse it is for you. And white sugar is a perfect example of that, right?
Yeah, I'm probably a little more extreme than you in that. Well, I'm keto / carnivore, but that works it works for me. If I have, I don't even eat carbs really. I eat fiber and meats mostly. Yeah. But nuts and a few other things. But for me, anybody who knows me, I'm an extremist. So I just don't have anything to do with sugar, like nothing ever. And
so you don't eat dates ever or anything like that?
I don't eat fruits.
No fruits?
I don't eat.
Where do you get your antioxidants from?
I have no idea. You know. But my
Because you
body
work
seems
out. You work out.
I do work out.
So you're
I
creating
work out a
free
lot.
radicals. So you
Yeah.
need antioxidants to balance those out in your body.
I don't know. My body seems to be doing fine. Actually,
Yeah.
I tested, did some blood tests recently, and I'm sort of in the best of condition I've ever been. So
Good. Good
Yeah.
for you.
So I don't know. Like, again, I don't know. I don't disagree with you. For me, it's like I just hit the switch and sugars are out. And,
Yeah.
and
And that's
simple
what it
carbohydrates
is.
are out. And,
Yeah. And it's all about what makes you feel the best you,
Yeah.
right? How do you feel when these things or these changes are implemented in your life? And that's really what it comes down to is,
So you take, for example, vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
I love salads and I love that. I eat vegetables and I just bloat right up. Like
Yeah.
they just don't like my body and my body doesn't like them. And you talk about the body screaming out. My
Yeah.
body screams out, stop eating these
Yeah.
things. It doesn't matter what, it could be greens, it could be whatever. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like my body does not like them.
yeah. See, my mind right away goes to like enzymes for that. Like, what are some enzymes or some gut issues that might be causing that bloat to happen?
Yes.
So there may be another root cause because you digest meats very differently than you digest
I
carbohydrates.
seem to digest meats very well.
Yeah, so that's good. It works for you. Again, how do you feel? What makes you like feel your very best? And you kind of got to go with that. But I'd hate to keep vegetables out of the mixture for you, though.
Yeah, you're not going to convince me. Of that.
Okay, that's another topic.
It's okay. Nickey, the thing about this podcast is that I love when people disagree with me because I'm not right. I may not be wrong. I don't know, but I'm learning. I'm always learning,
Yeah.
And I think the beauty of this world is that there's 8 billion people on this planet and there's 8 billion different opinions and, on some topic or something. And, who's to say who's right and wrong? There is some science and there's all that stuff. But in the end, like you said, what works for me might not work for you. And what works for you might not work for the next person.
That's it. And it's a process of discovery,
Yeah.
right? Which is kind of what I like about it. It's figuring things out, figuring out how your body responds to things. And it's all, I don't know, it's like putting a puzzle together.
Putting a puzzle
Yeah.
together. And it's a process. So I'm imagining that when you get a client, that's not like a one session or five. Like there's got to be a series of sessions.
There is, yeah, depending on where the client is.
Right.
I had a wonderful client that was like literally we'd had a 1 hour consultation. He was comfortable with where he was. He just wanted some tweaking maybe to his supplements and that was it. So that's all we did. We'd had a 1 hour consultation. I gave him a supplement plan with a schedule and it worked great for him. He was perfect with where he was and didn't need another consultation.
Right. And he might come back to you at another time and say, I want to tweak it a bit more.
Yeah, exactly. So it depends on where that person is.
Because we also change as we age, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you deal with any hormonal stuff? Because
Not so much. I'm not.
I don't mean giving hormones. I mean,
Like-
because men go through andropause and women go through menopause. And,
Yeah.
And those are really challenging times for both. Different for women. I think more challenging for women. Andropause is just us, our testosterone dropping and we have less sex drive, less clarity. And, I do hormone replacement therapy. But if you can't deal directly with the hormones, do you deal with, because you must have people coming in and going through these changes of life that are really challenging for them.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people actually.
Yeah.
And the sad part is that it's not just women in perimenopause or menopausal stages. I'm seeing a lot of young women, like teenagers.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, who are dealing with, hormonal issues and it saddens me because the first go-to is always medication, right? And then you trust your doctor to give you the right advice. And there's simple things like certain teas that I'll recommend that they take at certain times of the month. And it makes a huge difference for PMS pain, for mood.
Sure.
But
Okay.
I don't really deal with it. It's not my area of specialty. It's not kind of what I want to focus on.
What do you want to focus on?
I want to focus on post-concussion syndrome.
Right, because you can ask you why.
Yeah, for sure. My
Okay.
my youngest had a concussion back in 2019, February 2019.
Okay.
And that's the thing that, too, I want to kind of demystify is, concussions are not just something to rub off. He had multiple concussions before, and every time we went to the doctor, followed the protocol, wait a certain amount of time until you're symptom-free, then go back, he was a hockey player, so, go back to practice. How do you feel? Your symptoms good? Great, you can get back to it. So we're talking like a few days to maybe a few weeks and you're back into the game.
Right.
We always followed the protocol, went to the doctor for everything. We thought we were doing the right thing all the time.
Yeah.
Turns out the protocol is really not the right
Is that
thing.
the part of the protocol where you stay out of the bright light and
rest for a while,
Yeah.
no TV, no electronics,
Yes.
you know, So that's great for the first little while, but when you're a 16-year-old boy and then the symptoms don't go away, you know, it's been 3 weeks and now it's 4 weeks and now it's 3 months and now it's 8 months and now it's 10 months. And, you know, that's basically a recipe for psychosis, you know, and he started developing insomnia. He couldn't sleep anymore. He was losing his mind.
So there's actual physical damage to the brain in a concussion, right?
Correct. Yes. It's an
I
injury.
watched
It's
that
a brain
movie
injury.
Concussion. It was, I don't
Yeah.
have
With
you seen
Will
it?
Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really good.
It's
Yeah,
good.
Yeah.
I don't know how accurate it is, but it's really
It's
good.
very accurate.
Okay,
yeah.
good. Yeah, it was very eye-opening for me
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. And it's just like, it doesn't take a lot, right? And people, like, he's also a skateboarder, my youngest, he's very active. And people would just be like, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you forcing him to wear a helmet? You know what? And a helmet doesn't stop you from getting a concussion. It's the fast, movement and stopping. It's your brain basically moving around in your skull.
Well, this is interesting because, I kickbox
Yeah.
and I get hit in the head a lot.
Yes.
Hopefully not too much. Hopefully I'm good enough that I don't get hit that often. But is that potentially causing concussion? I'm assuming there's minor concussions and major concussions.
Yeah. So I'm not sure that I could fully answer that because I'm not specialist yet.
Right.
Yet. I'm going to say yet because
Right.
I'll be able to answer that with more of confidence in some point in the future. But
Okay.
for now, the deviation between minor and major, I don't know. For me, it's concussion is concussion.
Okay.
You're injuring your brain every time. But, a lot of it has to do with what state you're in to begin with. And I feel like my son suffered greatly because of our diet.
Okay.
We were experimenting with our diet at that time. We were going to more and I don't want to bash anything, like you said earlier, it's individual, it's based on everyone. But I was like, oh, we're going to go on this vegan adventure and we're going
Right.
to eat healthy. And I felt great. But as a young, growing athletic boy, he was 150 miles an hour from the time he woke up to the
Right.
time he went to bed. It wasn't the right diet for him.
Right.
So I feel like his brain didn't have the fat that it needed to protect itself from those impacts.
Right. I have a fat brain, so
No, perfect.
I
Yeah.
probably take a lot of blows. Okay, so your son experienced multiple concussions, though.
Yes.
And that sounds dangerous to me. Mm-hmm. But he's been able to work with you. Does he work with you or does he work with someone else? Can you work with your son well? Or
We can communicate really well, but like any parent-child relationship, it's, I would say something and then a doctor would say it, a few weeks later and then, okay, now it made sense.
Yeah.
But a few of those times, he trusts me. He listens to the advice that I give, but he's always making his own decisions, right? I always encourage that.
Right.
But we've seen, 19 plus specialists over the few years and trying to figure this out. And one of them talked about nutrition. One. So, and that was 13 months in to us trying to figure out how to help this poor kid and who was suffering greatly, not only physically, now his mental health is deteriorated severely.
It's mind-boggling, Nickey, that nutrition seems to be the last thing on
I
my
know,
mind.
isn't
so
it?
when I went for heart surgery, when they discovered I had blockage, first thing they do is, before they discovered, they send me to a cardiologist. And it goes through a series of questions. And I talk about some of the supplements I take and never asks me about what I eat. I could eat McDonald's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day.
Yep.
And they didn't really seem to care.
It just
It's
floors me.
It floored me.
Yeah.
Okay, I want you on this medication, this medication, this medication.
Yeah.
What about, do you care what I eat? Because
Yeah.
I could be eating real garbage.
Yeah. Oh, that doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't matter.
It blows my mind. This
I
stuff
know.
blows my mind.
Yeah, that's what got me into this. Is because 13 months, and I have to tell you, I was besides myself.
Yeah.
I had no idea what to do anymore. I was calling the doctor's office, crying, please, 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 I need help, And the only answers they ever gave was, if you ever need, if you ever feel in danger, call the police, or you can drop him off at the RO. I was like, I'm not dropping my son off at the RO. He needs some support. That it's just they're very kind of dismissive, and they just want if you're not going to put them on medication, then they don't want to have anything to do with you. And we just kept refusing. Well, he did. My son is very strong,
Can
thankfully.
we step back a bit? Mm-hmm. I think this is really important information for people listening or watching. Okay, so your son had concussion, multiple concussions. Then he was acting out in a certain way.
Yeah. So every concussion
Is
is
that
different.
okay to talk about?
Yeah, for sure. I won't talk too much because it's kind of his story to
Yeah.
tell, so I don't want to get into too much detail with
Sure,
it.
yeah.
And he doesn't want to identify necessarily with that anymore, so I don't want to label him with it either.
Okay, well, we don't have to talk about it. So there were things that were concerning you that it was
Yes.
affecting him. And so doctors are saying, you can go here, you can go there, we can throw some medication at you.
Yep.
Your son is, probably takes after his mom, very, very wise, and then says, no, I don't want to do the medication.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, he wasn't sleeping, so anybody who's not sleeping, is going to experience
Well,
some very troubling, outcomes. So he wasn't sleeping. He was in physical pain all the time.
Yeah.
He couldn't focus. And one of the things that I wish I knew then that I know now is if your child or the person that you're taking care of is tripping all the time or banging into things,
Right.
you need to go and see an eye specialist for that, and it took us a long time to get to that stage, even though he was tripping and falling all the time. And I was always like, oh my God, he's going to cause more damage,
yeah.
But had I known that there was an impact to the eyes, because the eyes are a direct extension of the brain.
Right.
So they were actually impacted and he wasn't seeing properly. His eyes could no longer change focus.
Oh, like a depth of field thing.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was but all these things we had to realize on our own, right? It was as we were going through it and playing this process of discovery, the doctors just really weren't very helpful at all. If anything, they created more trauma, just with all the intake forms and the same questions 100 times over and over again. They don't share information with each other. So he had to keep answering the same questions over and over and over.
So let's talk about that from a mother's perspective.
Yeah.
Because I'm guessing that, especially around the concussion stuff, young people are playing sports, they're getting knocked around. From a mother's perspective, and you're watching this play out, and you're realizing this is not working, and doctors are giving bad advice, and that must be extremely, as a father, I would lose my mind. I would want to strangle somebody.
Oh yeah, it was tough.
For my heart thing, I had to take control of my own life. And I'm a strong personality and stuff. But if it was my son and I feel like that they're just not doing the right things, I'd be so angry.
Yeah. I'd say there's nothing worse than watching your child suffer
Yeah.
and being powerless to do anything about it. There's no worse feeling in the world. Absolutely.
But I get the impression you weren't powerless because you took...
I'm stubborn. So I was like, there's got to be an answer here. There's got to be a solution. So I just started researching and dug into as much information as I could about brain injury and about, post-concussion syndrome, which is where you're at basically if the symptoms don't go away after, I think they say 3 months. But
Right.
So I learned as much as I could. I actually got training on neurorehabilitation. And then once we found the naturopath who changed his diet, we started finally seeing some improvement after 13 months. He changed his lifestyle too and started doing more exercise, which doctors tell you not to do.
Right.
So once he started changing the food and lifestyle factors, he started to feel better, and that just triggered my interest in food. And then I became obsessed basically about that. And
How long ago was that?
that was 3 years ago, I guess, when I started that deep dive.
And were you, at that time, already studying to be or had studied to be a holistic nutritionist?
No, I was a federal government employee at that time.
So this drove you to becoming
Yes.
who you are now?
Yes.
What you are now?
Exactly. Yeah.
Amazing. So
Yeah.
your mom instincts kicked in not only to help your son, but to help other people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think that's fantastic, Nickey.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't bear the simple solution was completely bypassed for
Yes.
so long by a team of professionals, and I couldn't let that happen to somebody else. I had to do something to help people realize how they could feel better faster.
So you want to specialize in this concussion. You've experienced it from in your own personal life with your own family, and now you have a deep passion for it. I'm again, these are statements that are really questions, I think, but and so now how do you reach people? How do you get the parents or whoever's got a concussion? How do you get to them so that you can help them?
That's a good question. I think that's the stage that I'm at now. Is I took until now. I think today is actually like the 1 year anniversary of when I started my business.
Happy anniversary!
So thank you. So it took until now, basically, for me to build the confidence in myself to know that I can help people and that I do have something worth value, to offer. So leaving Healthy, or I guess the health food store, is one of the first steps in starting to become more direct, focused on this passion.
Yeah, because I remember when I met you, it's probably about a year ago.
Yep.
At the health food store.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, I won't name it, but that we were chatting about that, and you had that in your mind that you wanted to, do your own practice or do something of that sort. And so it's taking you that year basically to get to a place where you feel confident.
Correct.
And what gives you the confidence? I think you should be confident, by the way, because I've chatted with you and you seem to have a lot of knowledge. And what you may lack in a little bit of knowledge, you make up in passion. So. And I think passion's actually more important than the knowledge. You'll get the knowledge eventually, right?
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It took a lot. I think a lot of it has to do with just how I felt about myself most of my life.
Okay.
It's just figuring out who I am. Like everything happens in life for a reason. Right?
Yeah.
So as much as this whole situation was extremely traumatizing and difficult to deal with, it's really allowed me to figure out who I am and learn to love that person. That was a tough transition, is learning to love that person. That's one of the hardest. Yeah. Yeah.
If you're starting without it, it's a hard thing to transition to.
Exactly. So you can't help other people if you don't learn to help yourself first, right? So I had to learn to love myself, be compassionate for myself.
I think you can help other people if you haven't, but it's more of a mask.
Yes.
I mean, you can perform the function, but it's not holistic for you.
Yes.
Right?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you feel like you're getting to that place now, or you're at that place now.
I think there's still a bit more work to do, but I feel like I've.
Oh, Nickey, by the way, that work is lifetime.
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
Yeah. I think you'll definitely continue, but I'm feeling much better about who I am now, and I've seen the results too. I mean, the more that I see validation in the clients that I'm dealing with currently, the more it helps kind of reinforce. Like I'm doing what my purpose was. I just only found it, but I'm finally serving my purpose.
Well, that's probably the most exciting thing, is to discover purpose and then to live it out.
Yes.
My goal for anybody I walk the journey of life with is to help them become the best version of the person they were created to be. So, and that comes with gifts and talents, and I think one of the greatest shames in life is people don't examine themselves, and they don't examine what their gifts and talents are, and then they never really hone those, because those are the things. Well, I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. Those are the things gifted by God. You have this innate stuff, but you don't have to do anything with it. It could just sit dormant.
Yes.
Or you can learn how to make that even better, and then not for yourself, but to help other people.
Yeah.
And so you've come this long way, this journey, to a place where you want to help other people. I think you're doing what you were put on this earth to do.
Yes. It took a while to figure that out, though, right? 'Cause I was brainwashed like so many other people, right? You live the day to day, the 9 to 5, and, I came up from basically nothing, and I thought I was doing super well, and it was exactly where I needed to be, and I had to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, get higher up in that job, work harder, work longer, and it was just all fake, that I realized now. Like you're talking about a mask. I realized I was wearing a mask for most of my life, trying to be this person that I never really felt comfortable with,
And I would say 95% of the population lives that way.
Yeah,
with
and
the
I find
masks
it sad.
and never really knowing and
Yes.
never really examining life. I think a life unexamined is a shame.
And it's so sad. And I think a lot of the issues that we're dealing with come from that, right? People just haven't realized who they were meant to be, or they don't see the value in themselves yet. And they're just trying to live their lives their day by day.
Yeah. So let's, going back, I think everybody faces some trauma in their lives. Some face extreme trauma, some face minor trauma, but life is not easy. Life has its challenges. And there will be things that happen in our lifetime that that affect how we think about everything in the present and in the future, right? We start seeing through the filter of our history, right? But that doesn't have to be just that way. It can be like you're doing. You're self-examining. You're examining history. You're examining the whys and what you want different. And that is, I think, true life. Like being able to not let history dictate your life. Yes, history will affect your life, and it will in some ways guide your life, but you can learn to control that and use history to become a better version of yourself.
Absolutely. And it has a lot to do with mindset, right?
So you must get clients that, because every client that comes in has something from the past that affects how they live in the present.
Absolutely.
Are you able to identify that in them? Or do you even work? Is that something you do? Or
sometimes, so the first question, can I identify it? Sometimes yes. Is that what I do? Not necessarily. A lot of times I will put as part of my recommendations that they go and talk to a psychologist.
Okay.
Or that they go and have energy work done, or something to release that stuck part in there.
But you will recognize it and then say, send them to the person that should be dealing with it.
Correct.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So that's, again, it's exciting to see that you've walked that journey. Because I don't know, there's a book I read back. It's an older book. I think it was written in the 70s or by Dr. Scott Peck called The Road Less Traveled. I don't know if you know of it.
No.
Well, you're walking the road less traveled, and it's called The Road Less Traveled because not many walk it. And, that's exciting for you now, and it's exciting for the future. It's exciting for the people that you're going to connect with because you're going to affect change in people's lives.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. I feel like it's just I've reached such a place of happiness and calm in my soul. Like I used to be very, very angry and I didn't even realize it, until now where I've found this peace and happiness inside of me that just feels so good and I can deal with and handle pretty much anything. And before, wow, like I never realized how angry I was, but it was tough.
I think we had talked about whether we were going to talk about that or not.
Yeah.
And I think we're not going to go into that in too much depth, but there was a point in your life where you realized you were a certain way and you wanted to change it, right?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. And we can talk about that part of it, the healing. I feel like where it comes from doesn't matter as much as the journey forward from it when you hit that level of discovery. So the healing was tremendous for me to take some self-reflection and recognize that I had some issues that I needed to work out. And I mean, we'll just call it what it is. It was narcissism, and you've done a podcast on that before.
Yes, sir.
So you're very familiar.
Lived it, yeah.
And yep, exactly. And it wasn't even in my realm of awareness before, and I was often just calling myself the victim. And it was when I became aware, I was able to heal and share that healing with those around me.
It's rare, though. My understanding, I'm not an expert, but it's rare that someone who struggles with narcissism, especially if they're NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, ever get to that place of self-examination because they are consistently the victim.
Yeah.
You're stubborn. Yeah.
I'm stubborn.
That's good. That's a good stubborn. That stubborn worked out for you well.
Well, the thing I think has a lot to do with the awareness piece, though, right? Like when you can't unsee something, right? You can't. Once you become aware of it, you can choose to ignore it, but it's going to eat up at you, right? You can either deal with it or ignore it, and if you ignore it, it's just going to eat away. Or you can deal with it and master it.
But most people go through life, whether it's eating away at them or not, and they die that way.
Yeah. Maybe they feel like they can't. Maybe I had really good support, right? And that makes a huge difference.
That makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they know. Yeah, maybe they think they can't. It is a painful journey to get past that to the next place.
Yeah.
because you have to acknowledge certain things, and acknowledging is painful, and
Yeah.
you know,
And apologize.
and apologizing, and you
that
know,
was
apologizing
painful.
to yourself, apologizing to others.
Yes.
So, at some point, you decided you wanted to change, and you were willing to go through. Did you know that you were going to experience pain in the healing process?
No, I don't think so.
No?
I just knew I wasn't happy. I just knew something wasn't. I didn't want to feel angry anymore. You know.
Okay, so you didn't want to be angry anymore. You decided you want to change. I'm assuming you felt pain in the healing process.
Well, yeah, apologizing is always hard, and
Or just recognizing some of the mistakes.
recognizing, yeah, because I mean, you're already dealing with self-confidence issues, and now there's things that aren't cool with how you're behaving or what you're doing or what you're thinking.
So here's a really important question for you, for the audience. With what you had to go through to get to this place, was it worth it?
Absolutely. You know what? And this journey that I've been on with my son's injury has helped me get there.
Yes.
Right? Like there's a lot of like natural remedies now that I employ to help kind of calm that fire. And I take some breaths and step back and do some self-reflection on something before I react to it.
Right.
So there's a lot of tools that I've learned in just going through this journey with my son that have really enabled me to heal myself. And I know I'm not supposed to say the word heal either, but I'm talking about me so I can heal myself.
Sure.
Yeah.
All these experiences, the bad, the good, the pain, the whatever, these are great things that you can pass on, not just to your family, but to every person you cross paths with.
Yeah.
I've been through a hell of a journey in my life. I love it. I wouldn't change any of it, including my most recent past experience for the last few years. And it's made me it's made me someone way better that I can give to other people. And what you're talking about is making a better version of you. Actually, not a better version. The version you're supposed to be.
An improved Nickey 2.0.
Yeah. I think I'm Doug 7.0 by now. But
Perfect.
Yeah. That you now will gift to other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone much wiser than me said, there's nothing that happens to you, it happens for you. Right? So,
It can. So I'm not necessarily a believer that all things happen for a reason. I believe that good can come from all things that happen.
yes.
But you have to be in that place to receive the good, right?
Absolutely.
A lot of people, it becomes more bitterness or anger or resentment or self-pity or whatever it becomes. But if you're in the right headspace or you're looking in the right direction, the bad things can turn into really amazing things. And maybe not even for you, you know? I remember watching a documentary on this girl. I think she broke her back when she was horse riding. I think she's really well known. I don't even know her name, but anyway, she used that as like when she ended up in a wheelchair, and rather than falling into self pity and she went into ministry and ministered to people and talked about faith in God and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Amazing.
It can go one way or the other, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It depends on where your mind's at.
Yeah.
And how strong your mind is.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I'm excited for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Sounds like you have a great journey ahead.
I think so. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to start this this niche or this area of specialty that I've been, I think, running from a little bit because of my self-confidence issue. But now I'm ready to tackle it full on.
So is this courses that you will take, or is this something you self-study, or?
So the neuro rehabilitation course, I've already taken one of two. So I have to take the second one. Just had to save a bit of money first. But I've also gotten training from the Ontario Brain Injury Association that I plan on using. I want to develop my own program for people who are suffering that they could, follow at their own pace, based on my experiences and everything that I've learned. So always continuous learning. I love learning. If I could be a long-term student, I would, but that doesn't pay the bills.
You're a student of life.
Exactly. I'm a student of life. And that's kind of why I love this job, right? Because there's constantly discovery and learning to be had. So, and every situation is unique.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's the plan.
So you have your own clinic now. It's a physical clinic?
I have a home office, yes.
Home office, okay.
Yeah. And I contract out at a clinic here in the area.
Okay. And you're open to new clients?
Absolutely.
Okay. Open to new clients. So look, maybe you could tell them what kind of clients you'd like to have, and if people watch this, they can reach out to you and how they would reach out to you.
Yeah. So I'd love to have basically anyone who has hit a plateau in their concussion recovery and are still dealing with lingering symptoms, whether chronic pain, chronic headaches, indigestion, digestive issues, because they're directly related to stress levels in your body.
Okay.
If your body hasn't done a reset, then your systems can't function optimally. So just anyone who's still suffering with post-concussion syndrome, those are the clients that I want to help kind of move out of the loop.
And so they would know they have post-concussion syndrome because of these things like gut issues or sleep issues or...
Yeah, they likely would have made the link from their injury. Okay. So likely it would have been since the time of their injury that these things have just continued to occur and haven't resolved themselves.
How would they, what if somebody has never actually been diagnosed with a concussion, but they're I don't know, rugby is an example of probably where you can get a lot of concussions. So they play rugby, they've been knocked around, they really didn't think much about it, but somehow their life, the quality of life is degraded.
Yeah. I think a lot of that you can probably identify with sleep patterns and aggression. So you see a lot of just anger, impatience, irritability, most of the time with concussions or head injury. So I think that if all of a sudden you kind of become a different person and you're not sure what's going on, then that's probably a good indication that you've hit your head a few times more than you should.
Is depression also a symptom of?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's...
So if you're out there listening and you're in some sort of sport or whatever it might be. Was it a sport that your son got hurt?
Yes, hockey.
Yeah, so sport or anything like that, and you feel like you get knocked around and you feel like things have changed for you, then it's probably a good time to, and you haven't been diagnosed with a concussion, it's probably a good time to get some, contact Nickey and she can walk you through what you need to do.
Absolutely, yeah. Even just some simple food changes make a big difference.
So your son was able to resolve a lot of issues through music.
Yes, my oldest.
Your oldest son.
Yeah, my oldest. Okay. I have two very strong, resilient boys. I'm very proud of them.
Well, that's good. Mm-hmm. You have just the two boys?
Just the two boys, yes.
Okay.
God knew better than to give me a girl.
That's right. Yeah. Yes. Well, I think that's fascinating, Nickey. I think I'd love to see your practice grow. Mm-hmm. I'd love to see you reach out to people, or people reach to you who need your help. And, the way of the doctor, I'm not anti-doctor by any stretch of the imagination. There's necessity for doctors. Mm-hmm. But putting all our faith into a doctor is, I think, misguided faith. And, holistic nutritionists and other practices are, I think, much more attuned to life stuff and chronic things and those type of things.
Yeah, it's just the simplicity of, before you start taking apart the computer, make sure it's plugged in.
There you go.
It's just the simple analogy of basics first.
Well, I'm determined to find out what that study was that changed our whole way of being.
Please share it. Yeah, I'm super interested.
Yeah. And is there anything else you want to say to the audience about concussions or about holistic nutrition or about potential clients that you could have or advice or whatever?
The only thing I really want people to keep in mind is that, you can feel better. You can get better, and question that pharmaceutical, question that prescription pad, and do you really need it? And it's okay to ask your doctor that question too, right? That's their job, is to answer your questions. And most of the time they're okay answering those questions, but you have a right to know what you're about to put into your body and how it's going to affect you long-term. So if you're not asking those questions, then you can't be making an informed decision, which is our right medically, right? So ask
on
questions.
That note, a lot of doctors aren't willing to discuss.
Then get a new doctor.
Yes, I agree. So I've had doctors, I even had a paid doctor, I was paying for the service, who told me, look, I'm the doctor, you're the patient, and I'm like, well, I'm not paying you to tell me what to do. I'm paying you to have a discussion with me. Yes, ultimately you might be right, but I find there's a mix of different doctors. So I don't want to paint a brushstroke across doctors, but a lot of doctors don't want to discuss with you. They don't want to go any deeper than this is what you have and this is the medication you should take.
And I think that maybe sometimes they just don't know either. You know, a lot of them are trained by the pharmaceutical companies and they see the miracle outcome, right? And they want to help their patients. So they want to give this to you because it's going to make you feel better. And it might make you feel better, but it's also going to cause this and it's going to cause that and it's going to cause that. And then you're going to be back for more. But maybe if they're reacting that way, it's because they don't know either. And then you're challenging them. Maybe it's more of a self-confidence issue on their part.
Maybe. So the option is, you know, the problem is in Canada is we can say go find another doctor. It's hard to find doctors.
Yeah, it is.
You know, we're not in there's no abundance of doctors. It's, you know, people are climbing over each other to get a GP even, you know.
Then take the time and take care of yourself. Do the research. So, you know, Google's a wonderful thing. And
I would say that go see a holistic nutritionist.
Yes.
It may not be the only solution, but it's a good start then to get on a path of taking care of yourself.
It's definitely a great start. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Well, I think it's a lot easier to get to a holistic nutritionist than it is to a doctor. And you can share experiences and you can say, look, you can challenge your doctor. Don't just take a medication because they say so. Ask them, what does it do? What's the side effects? What is
absolutely. And if your doctor can't answer you, your pharmacist can.
Yeah.
Because like I don't deal with pharmaceuticals. I definitely am not trained in that. I don't know the details of it. But a pharmacist does. You know, that's specifically what they're trained for. So they can, if your doctor won't answer you, talk to a pharmacist.
Talk to a pharmacist. And now that we have abundance of those,
Yes.
my particular pharmacist is a small, it's like they're a compounding pharmacy and they're small. Like I think they have 3 outlets. It's local and they're great. I can talk, I can get into long discussion about, I mean, with limited time, but, you know, about, okay, what is this, you know, and so on and so forth. So those are a lot easier to find than
Absolutely.
doctors, you know?
Absolutely. And they're aware of the contraindications better than a doctor might be.
Yeah.
You know, they're the chemical people. So definitely your pharmacist can help out.
Great. Well, Nickey, I wish you the best in your, I really appreciate being here. I think we're going to have a lot more to talk about. We'll have to get you back on, but I need to formulate my mind now because I have so many questions, but I can't get them all out right now.
For sure. Yeah, you take your time. I'll be here.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you won't be right here, I don't think.
No, not here. Not more than, no. But I'll come back.
Yes, perfect.
On the patio maybe next time.
And so lastly, just repeat again, if people want to connect with you, how do they do that?
So you can go to my website, onewholelife.ca.
Onewholelife.ca.
Yes, W-H, so ONEWHOLELIFE
.ca.
.ca.
Okay.
Or you can search.
And you can book directly online?
You can book directly online.
Okay.
Or you can search me on socials and reach out to me on any platform. Really, just send me a message through there. I'm on LinkedIn, not too much, but mostly on Instagram. I do post a lot of videos on TikTok. I have a few series there that people can go watch, one on mental health, one on sleep issues.
Great.
So people can go check out my videos there on TikTok. And just reach out to me, Facebook, Instagram, email. My number's on my website. Feel free to text me as well.
Okay. There's something we didn't touch on sleep, but I won't go there now. That's another rabbit hole, but it's an important one. But maybe we can touch on that next time.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thanks so much, Nickey. It's been fantastic. If you love this video, you're going to love it anyways because it's been amazing. Subscribe to the channel. There's a lot more coming. There's a lot of stuff that's already on there. And this will probably pop up by the time you guys are watching this, it's probably 2 weeks later. But thanks again.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right.